Hey, team players, welcome back. Today's going to be an amazing day. In today's episode, not only are you getting 2 more live drafts out of us, you're also going to be getting a conversation about the direction in which we see the best ball drafts going by the time we get to the end of draft value. And that's one of the major ways to win, regardless whether you're on Underdogs, DraftKings, or wherever. If you're able to get a more valuable team, you'll win. It's not that complicated. So that's what we're here about talking about today. Making some awesomeness happen and winning you more money. Gonna be jumping here, Bob. Which kind of draft we doing today?
Hey, what's up, baller? How's it going, man? We are going to load into a puppy today. We'll probably do a puppy. If we can load in for a corgi a little bit later, that'd be great. So I think we're going to click this at 407. So anybody in the chat, anybody in the stream right now, we're going to click enter at 407 Eastern Standard Time. Just before we start, though, Joe, talk about a couple of things that came across, Roto World, the news world, Twitter and stuff. And what I've noticed a couple of rooms in draft, just as I've been drafting over the last couple of days since these pieces of news broke. Obviously, Quinshon Judkins is on bond right now, getting arrested down in Broward County. Hasn't yet signed a contract. So I think it's people think that he's going to play at some point this year, if not at the beginning of the season. I think it does tend to drop his value a little bit more. Just as a note, one of the drafts that I was doing, he actually was the 4th running back I was able to pick up, actually like way lower behind his value. This also builds up a little bit of steam for guys like Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson heading into camp. If the number one threat's not going to be there, potentially,
it doesn't mean Dylan Ford's worth anything, though. I don't agree with that.
Ford get a couple more looks. Also in the news, Juwan Jennings is actually looking for a new contract.
All right, Bob, you clicked it, right?
No, I said 407.
Click it now. There's 4 spots left. Click it now.
So when we look at Juwan Jennings in terms of value, it said, news is saying that he wants a new contract. News is saying that he's not happy where he's at. He might hold in as opposed to
we're going to talk about the Niners here. And this is, you started it, so I'm going down this road right now.
Yeah.
The thing with the San Francisco 49ers, and this is reported from multiple different sources, and I really don't want to lose our PG ranking on this one, but John Lynch is the biggest executive jackass in the NFL. By all metrics and all reports of him. We see this as being now the third time he has had someone in as many years holding out on them because of the way in which the team is treating them. And that is directly a result of them. Last year, maybe it was 2 years ago now, they used the NFL as a way to basically negotiate Ayuk for them. And now they're getting the exact same thing going off here. It is widely reported that if John Lynch would get paid more, if he only had 41 men on the rosters, he would do it that way. This is the worst setup going.
But Joe, here's how it kind of matters, though, right? Is that we're looking at, just looking at draft boards. And one of the biggest things that we talked about in relation to the 49ers, actually just, in the last couple of months, is that the fact that Pearsall is a little bit undervalued for what he can do, where he can make an impact on this team. Because Juwan Jennings was getting drafted ahead of him. We've drafted him a couple of times here and there. But also to keep note that, Brandon Ayuk, news is saying that Brandon Ayuk could be ready for camp, could be ready for week 1, but more likelihood is going to go on PUP. And so when we look at Juwan Jennings is unhappy, they took away, they moved Debo. So now you have a team that's potentially George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Jacob Cowing, and Ricky Pearsall. And and Demarcus Robinson also got caught on a DUI as well. So, you know, it's a little bit of a mess in terms of where targets could potentially go if Jennings decides to hold out. Obviously, they just paid Brandon Ayuk a lot of money recently, and it doesn't feel like they would want to also spend that type of money on Jawan Jennings. So it feels to me that there is good room for guys like Pearsall to climb up a round or two in the next couple of months, depending on what news says. And it's also probably a clearer pathway to a guy like George Kittle more often getting into the third round rather than the fourth round. And I think that, you know, value-wise, where people had been getting George Kittle in the fourth round, I think was really appropriate because of the production that he can have. In the third round, I tend to kind of like err on the side of like, I don't really want to do that. So the guy that you kind of want to focus on here could potentially be a guy like Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, he's going to be in that 9 to 16 range most often. Do you want to take a chance on him? The guy that this hurts, a guy that, you know, you had been saying that you're not a big fan, is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's value is probably going to take a big dip because if Juwan Jennings isn't going to be there and Brandon Ayuk's not going to start the season, people are going to probably be a little bit hesitant to draft Purdy at the value that they had been drafting him. So in this draft, I'm kind of excited to see where that Niners kind of movement is in terms of what's going on the draft board. I think it's going to be interesting, especially and also included with that Judkins, Sampson, and Ford. Will Sampson continue to be in that, you know, late rounds down in here in the 190-ish, 169-ish range? Will Ford continue to stay there? Will his closing line value be a little bit higher? Just really curious about that. A lot of good starts happening here. I really like that JT pick over at the turn here on 13. Gibson Achane, I think, is very underrated.
Oh, I hate that Bucky going right there. Hate it. I also hate that this did not upload my rankings.
Hey, I mean, it happens.
It's annoying as hell when it does.
We're going to go.
So you're going to be getting a unique build out of me. I don't like drafting from the 3-hole.
Well, I don't want to do that. I can take Wilson. Yeah, I mean, you haven't drafted out of the 3-hole in a long time. But in Underdog here, I've tried a couple different starts. Again, this is a puppy 2, $5 buy-in. So not Best Ball Mania. We want to get a couple entries into this tournament as well. You want to spread the love a little bit. And I think that in Underdog, especially speaking here, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to have some of those heavy running back builds early here, especially builds where we have some pass catchers like Gibbs, Bijan, Barkley, Bucky, Achane. I think that that's going to be really impressive to get some of those guys on your portfolio. Here, though, Joe, I went 3 wide receivers. I typically don't do that because I do like some of that value at wide receiver down here in the 7th, 8th round. I went with Jamar. You know, we all know it. For anybody doing best ball right now, everybody's pushing those week 17 stacks. Week 17, that the game, the most pivotal one that you want to win, but you also want to be looking at week 15 and week 16, guys. So, you know, looking at Cincinnati, maybe I should have went Tyreek Hill there because Tyreek Hill gets some correlation with Jamar over in week 16. Cincinnati also over there in Baltimore as well. I went Marv for the week 17. I also went Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is lined up to get a heavy amount of targets. Whether Justin Fields can get him the ball, that's the biggest question that we all have on our minds right now. But I think that when we look at the Jets' back half schedule, 15, 16, and 17, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and New England, those are teams that are not really good at stopping anything. So I'm willing to take a chance on Garrett Wilson there at the turn and lose out on, you know, a potential build with Jamar. I really like this 3 running back build over here. Do you see that going on at 12, Joe? We have a pass catching running back in
I don't
Brees,
like who they are.
JT and Kyron with a lot of volume. You know, there are some crazy stats with Jonathan Taylor. You know, what his success rate is in terms of fantasy production when Anthony Richardson's on the field versus when any other quarterback is on the field. If Daniel Jones is on the field, Jonathan Taylor could crush his ADP. He could absolutely crush it. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. You have Jalen Hurts, Jane Daniels, Josh Allen, Lamar off the board. Obviously, those are the first 4 quarterbacks that are going to be going. It's a little unusual to see Hurts go before Daniels, but with this stack right here, people are really, really into just buying into that week 17 stack. Having some correlation there is always nice.
I hate this spot.
Sutton with an early build there.
I hate this team. I hate this spot. I hate everything about this team so far. The only thing that's successful is I just clicked rewrote and got my rankings into it.
That's an early Olave, man.
Now, this guy has taken who I wanted.
That's a way early Olave.
This team would be way better with Bucky and Cortland on it. I like drafting in the 8 and 9 hole.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of experience. For anybody watching the show that's watched us for a while, we always get skunked on draft picks. We're always sitting down here between the 6 to 12. And quite honestly, any content creator out there, they'll tell you their favorite positions to draft at. But more recently, what I've been seeing is what I've said for months now, is that the 7 through 12 is actually in the first 3 rounds, kind of the most optimal selecting ground. You are getting 2 top, you could potentially get 2 top 12 wide receivers. You could still get a top 5 running back, a top 8 wide receiver. And on the comeback, you basically have your choice at any of the top quarterback talent, theoretically speaking, and another great producer. So, for me, sitting here at the 1, which I usually don't get while we're drafting on air, it's a bit unusual for me. Going 4 wide receivers early like that, in underdog, particularly when they use the 3 wide receiver build, I think is not bad. It's not something that I definitely want to do. But I get that correlation that I wanted with Miami in week 16 with Jamar. I get Marv as well. The thing that I'm really curious to see now is that as it goes with every drafter that drafts Jamar and T, is which one bites the bullet on Joe Burrow first, or does Joe Burrow get sniped before those 2 guys? This is the thing that we always talk about when we draft is where's that value going to be at on a guy like Joe Burrow? Recently, I have seen Joe Burrow go in the 6th, 7th round, guys. There is so much value built in for Joe Burrow right there. This build, 4 running backs, the names you might not like, people might not like these names, but these are all very productive.
Oh, Kamara's actually, I like Kamara. I like Kamara on that list. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't hate those names.
Godwin,
but I don't
Godwin
like I don't like the where you build a team where you have a dead spot in your first 5 picks.
Godwin
don't
as
like a build like that.
Wide receiver 2 could potentially be an interesting option. So we see here the guy at 11 went Joe Burrow. I'm all right with that. It happens. But taking Joe Burrow there, guys, if you're taking Joe Burrow with any of these combinations, at least kind of line up that Cincinnati, like I said, the week 15, 16 Cincinnati build. Line them up with some Baltimore guys. Line them up with some Miami guys. Again, Joe Burrow is going to be super productive when on the field. So he can be bought anywhere, but I think it's important to keep that in mind, to be honest. All right, let's see who we got here. I wonder, like I said, I wonder how much Judkins will fall here. 5. All right. Hopefully he's there on the comeback. I don't like that Connor went, but that's okay. What'd you say?
You see Judkins.
Oh, this guy's taking. This guy is taking all your guys, dog. I mean, hey. Somebody's been listening, right?
Appreciate it, I guess. Thank you for the like and subscribe, guys. But come on, man. Come on,
I mean,
man.
Hurts, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I got this guy sniping me from the one side, and my list on the other side.
Hey, I mean, keep it secret, keep it safe, they say, right?
Oh, he's going there.
All right. I wanted to get another running back there. Again, Caleb Johnson here in the 7th round. People will, and we've said there are many multiple ways that you can build a team. And this is just one example of many different ways you can build a team. Obviously, we all want to win money. Obviously, there's a variety of team construction standpoints. But in a tournament this big, sometimes you want to take guys that maybe you don't have extreme confidence in, but they still have volume opportunities. So Caleb Johnson is one of the guys that we like. We like Caleb Johnson enough. The 7th round is great value for a guy like Caleb Johnson, who could potentially be a great volume-based running back. As you can see, the board from 5th to 7th round, like this is kind of the room here, which is really interesting to me. These guys up here that have that 1-2 in the 1st and 2nd round that went a little bit deep in the running back first through 3 rounds there. These running backs, Joe, correct me if I'm incorrect, but these running backs in the 4th through 7th round are a bit more spread out than they usually are. Typically speaking, we see a nice run of running backs, and some of these wide receivers tend to fall a little bit more. But this draft is presenting itself as an interesting opportunity to get some value. I really like Matthew Golden. I really like Matthew Golden on DraftKings as well. His value on DraftKings, I think, is a lot better than it is on Underdog here. Sam Laporta always gets me.
Which again, I don't think Matthew Golden's the right play for Underdog. And the reason is he's not going to be a touchdown machine. He's not going to walk into a crowded room and demand touchdowns. I mean, I get that he was the number 2 receiver in this draft, but he's not that good. He's not CeeDee Lamb, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying he's not good. He's not CeeDee Lamb where he's walking in front of Reed and Dowds and Jacobs and taking all the touchdowns. It ain't happening.
This is where I agree to that perspective to a degree, but I also think that it's important to think about Green Bay from this perspective. Is that if you are the Green Bay Packers, you drafted Matthew Golden to fill a void. What is that void to us as the consumer kind of thing? Well, we're thinking that they want to get the ball downfield more. They don't want to utilize Jacobs as much as they did last year. They want to keep Jacobs fresh. They want to keep Jacobs healthy. They want to be able to push for a playoff spot and continue to roll in the playoffs. Jordan Love isn't a slouch as a passer. So when you are going after a Green Bay wide receiver, now this is why, like in a redraft league, for all those people out there that we talk to about redraft leagues, why Matthew Golden's value in a redraft league will take a bit of a hit as opposed to, Underdog here, is the fact that we're looking at Matthew Golden. All he needs to do is have, at this value, he's 1, 2, 3, 4. He's a 5th wide receiver on this team. All he needs to do to have value, Joe, is to have maybe 6-7 weeks of 15+ point games. And I think that for him, that's a total possibility. I don't think it's crazy to think that is or is not one. You know what I'm saying? All right.
I'm saying the likelihood of it happening is way lower, especially on Underdog because of the half PPR. I'm looking at it in terms of likelihood and against his peers. I look at the other ones. Stephon Diggs, clear number 1. Judy, he's the number 1. Mooney's getting a ton of volume. Golden might be the number 4 until Halloween. And you're drafting him where he needs to be your flex. It's a dangerous build, is what I'm trying to say there.
Maybe.
I like what you did there, Bob, with Bo and Fields. That's a good value of the 1 spot.
That was going to be Kyler. That was going to be Kyler and Fields to get with the Marv.
I like a lot more. It's Bo and Fields. I think you got lucky there then.
Yeah, I'm going to have to build in a little bit of value here off of Bo. I can get some interesting stacking partners with Bo. Denver's schedule is kind of crazy when you look at the back half. I do like the Jacksonville game week 16. I like the Green Bay game week 15. I don't know how I feel about the Kansas City game week 17. I do have a lot of Bo Nix against some Kansas City guys. My running back room is going to need some work, though, passing up on some dead zone running backs here. And dead zone in the fact is that they're not attractive to take. But if you're looking at guys like Warren and Tyrone Tracy, Mason, Aaron Jones, and I hate to put Aaron Jones in this group, but, Judkins and Robinson as well. All of these guys, if the situation hits right, have been people that can put up a decent amount of points for your team. Tyrone Tracy is one of our favorite guys going into this season. Who has the best balls? Who has the best balls? I think we got the best balls over here. I think we do, especially here on Underdog. So when we look at this,
I prefer DraftKings.
When we look at this draft, Joe, there's a lot of this is way even spread out here. There's a nice even spread to player distribution.
This is more like how it was before the schedule was released. Quarterbacks don't happen until round 10 or so.
But also, here's the other thing too, is that I see some like mini stacks and some decent stacking partners here with your typical Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin build-ins there. But I'm not seeing a lot of like super mega stacks like you often see in these $5 tournaments. There goes Evan Ingram. He was a guy that I really wanted to get there. I was thinking of going Bo and Evan Ingram here at the 8-9. I chipped back on that a little bit. Hopefully I can get some value on the comeback. So the team is looking thin at running back. It's looking pretty solid at wide receiver. We're going to see if we can build in a couple more people here to help out the room. Do I want to do that? Maybe we'll see. All right, so let's pull up the room. I don't know. I can get a Green Bay guy here, Carolina, Tampa, Seattle.
You hate Reed.
Say that again.
You hate Reed.
Well, Reed already went. Reed went in the 7th round. I mean, I've done it a couple of times, but I'm not going to like overdo it here. I'm going to have to get some value here at running back. I'm going to click you. And we're going to go 2. The reason I went
conventional in this bit.
What'd you say?
I hate this team. I hate this team.
I know you do. You hate your own team.
I hate my team because it's been sniped 5 times.
Family,
and now, I'm pushing in panic.
I was just talking about that, family. Is that we don't often get in the top 5 of picks. I was telling Joe that when the Underdog launched, it was a $1 contest, and you knew it was going to fill fast. I did 10 at the same time, and it was the wildest thing. I drew number 1 3 times. I drew 11 like 3 times. But it was so hard to kind of just conceptualize doing 10 drafts at the same time. And by the end, I don't even know what half of my teams ended up being. It actually ended up like with some good players on them in terms of like where the value was. But it was really hard to kind of navigate something like that. You see Tucker Kraft here, Joe. I like getting Tucker Kraft when I have Jordan Love. Again, this goes back down to the Green Bay stack, is that typically speaking in a lot of these tournaments that I've been seeing, when we get Tucker Kraft or when we get Jordan Love, we often see Jordan Love with Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden. But I think there's some ways to build that stack a little bit differently to get you some different value pulling out. You can go Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, and Romeo Doubs. Get something different as opposed to Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed. And I think on a team like Green Bay, where like you were saying earlier, where you don't know where those touchdowns could potentially go, that it leaves a lot of room for some unusual stacking partners. Magic, I'd like that. We just I finished my Scott Fishbowl on Sleeper a while ago. I think Joe's is still running.
Yeah, I just finally finished. It was
our slow drafts are not for Joe and I.
No.
We have a really hard time wrapping our head around 8 hours per pick when we're used to just, tournaments like this. It's just so interesting to kind of see what kind of builds come up when you have 8 hours to make a pick.
It's too long.
It's way too long.
Because what happens is people lose interest.
Yeah, a lot of people lost interest in certain tournaments. The 8 hours a pick, you leave yourself open. Like I get it for like, for certain things, like if you're busy. And I know a lot of our viewers like the slow draft, so you can go to the bathroom and just, draft while you're, but I can do that with a 20-second timer too. But I think the 8 hours just allows for like certain pieces of news to kind of like just come down the pipeline. So Kyle Williams has fallen a lot, Joe.
More so, it waits for people to hope there's going to be news coming on the pipeline, which just delays the entire thing.
Yeah, you're going to see, and this is one of the other players, which I'm curious to hear what everybody's viewpoint is. Kyle Williams has a weird ADP. So his ADP is 132, but rarely have I ever seen Kyle Williams be drafted at 132. I have seen him almost consistently in that 145 to 154 range. And I'm just curious if anybody out there wants to share their opinion on that. Yeah, King, we did at the top of the show, we did talk about the Judkins news. So Judkins, for anybody that want to know, Judkins got arrested in Broward County for domestic battery. He got set on bond. He's not yet signed with the Browns. And so while I do think that this does,
I don't think the Browns can do anything about it. This isn't like what's going on in Cincinnati.
Well, but here's the thing, Joe. While it does affect Judkins' value, so Judkins is now, firmly in the 8th round. Rarely have I seen him jump up to like the 7th round with this news. It also positions Judkins as like the 3rd or 4th running back on people's teams, as opposed to like number 2. And it also, for me, makes me want to take one of the other Browns running backs later. So if you were with us last week, and if you've been with us, I've been talking about Dylan Sampson a lot. Dylan Sampson, Tennessee players are kind of hard to profile sometimes because they, the positional value players, we've gotten some of those players lately in the league, and some of them haven't turned out and some of them have. But for a guy like Dylan Sampson, I think this is a tremendous opportunity because he's working with the team. He's been working with the team. He's going to get in there, sign, all this stuff. And he has pass catching upside as well. Well, if Jerome Ford ends up being one of, with all of this news, ends up being the guy that's going to take the field week 1, well, I can see a lot of opportunities for Dylan Sampson to prove himself. And Dylan Sampson is going, typically speaking, in the 16th round. I think that that's good enough value on a guy like Dylan Sampson. And I'm curious with the news to Judkins, how much a guy like Sampson or Ford ends up climbing up people's boards. Does this help any other player on Cleveland? No, not so much.
Well, what it's going to do, it definitely does not help any other player in Cleveland. But what it's going to do is when the official announcement comes out, probably in about a month or so, because that's how the system works, that the NFL is going to give their answer, especially if it's a non-suspension. He's going to stupidly jump up to like the 6th round. Don't be the guy who messes that up. Don't do that. Just because he's like, oh, he wasn't suspended, I'm going to give him in the 6th round. But I'm the only person who knows that. No, he never should have been a 6th rounder. Someone's going to do that. Don't be that guy. Just don't be that guy.
Yeah, and people had been circulating videos, King or Magic and King on Judkins, and saying, like, they were circulating the Ray Rice video from the elevator, and they were saying that it was Judkins, but it wasn't. It was just Ray Rice. So there are going to be a lot of people thinking either way about it. And DJ here, Garrett Wilson signing a hefty new deal. I like that. I took him here in the 3rd round. I have a weird Jets stack happening here with Garrett Wilson, Fields, Braylon Allen, and Mason Taylor. I think that outside of Breece Hall, those are the kind of the only Jets players that I really want to own. If I am taking Jets, I don't have any back end correlation for the Jets with New England, New Orleans, or Jacksonville, unfortunately. So I don't have a bring back, but I do have an interesting build there. Mason Taylor usually goes at 184. My next pick is 192. I wasn't sure if he was going to fall or not. There was a decent amount of tight ends taken here, so I'm willing to take a chance on him. We were also talking at the top of the show about Juwan Jennings asking for a new contract and the potentiality that, he said new contract or trade. We see him going in the 6th round here. It kind of pushes
the same thing they did with IU. He's not getting traded.
It pushes us more into drafting Ricky Pearsall as long as Ricky Pearsall stays below Juwan Jennings. 6th, 7th round value for Pearsall I don't think is terrible. I would take him after Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers did go, so I think that that's good enough. I put Ricky Pearsall kind of in the similar conversation as a lot of these guys here in the 7th round. I do like Darnell Mooney there as well. But I do think that it's an interesting proposition, Joe. Again, like we said, how it affects every other player and not necessarily Juwan Jennings himself, if you get what I'm saying. So we're coming to the back half of this draft here, pick 16, 17, 18. This is where I
don't agree with that. I get what you're saying. See, about Jennings, I don't agree that it should impact him at all. He's going to end up a Niner. He's going to get paid because they're going to float out there the trades, and really what he's going to do is have negotiations with every other team.
But here's the thing, Joe. I'm not talking necessarily about the player that is Juwan Jennings. I'm more so talking about how these draft boards are going to kind of, if this news continues to stay and he has not yet signed, just like it happened last year for Ayuk, it's going to trend values in directions that you might not want to go for certain 49ers players, if you catch what I'm saying. So like a guy like Kittle.
I do. I'm saying it should not affect, in your mind, in everyone's mind, the educated drafter should not have zero change about Jennings before and after this piece of information. He's going to be a Niner. He's going to be used the exact same way unless he misses a significant chunk of training camp. Don't worry about it. Until he does, if it's a month from now and we're 2 weeks into training camp and he hasn't reported, then we start worrying.
But again, right now,
don't worry about it. Just
there is a very likely chance, and here's why, Joe, is because you look at their contract situation. We said this when Debo was traded. We said that this is a perfect opportunity. And with Christian McCaffrey being Christian McCaffrey with injuries, this is a perfect opportunity where Brock Purdy is technically potentially still in his prime for this team to build around young, talented players. And so there is a argument to be made that loading Juwan Jennings at 28, it's saying here, 49ers wide receiver becomes available. They want a new contract. So there's already markets like Sports Illustrated, Roto-World, etc., that are pushing out information like, hey, now he could be a Steeler. He could be this. He could be this. He could be this.
He never will be. The Steelers are not going to play that game with San Francisco.
The value, the maximizing the value of Pearsall right now, I think is really important because Pearsall is going to start climbing up. And
Pearsall should have skyrocketed the day that Debo left. And Pearsall should be the highest receiver on the Niners for this year.
You're going to start to see guys like Jacob Cowing coming into the 18th and 17th rounds of these drafts for people to be different.
See that.
For those people that don't want to take what is a Tutu Atwell or Keenan Allen or Jalen Coker or Yoshivas, people that a lot of other people are kind of putting down, especially Coker and Yoshivas, for different various reasons, they're going to start to put Cowing on their teams. And if Cowing ends up playing and ends up getting that space that Jennings could have occupied, Cowing could be this 18th round guy that by draft season could end up climbing into the 12th and 13th round. That's why I'm saying this news doesn't necessarily.
Maybe Kittle gets hurt too, but I just Jennings, don't foresee that.
This affects the other players on this team more than it affects Jennings.
Kittle should benefit from it.
Well, this news is, like I said, could potentially put Kittle in certain drafts up into the 3rd round. And I wouldn't want to take him.
That's overpriced for Kittle. But I still think at the end of the day, it's going to be a much ado about nothing.
I think it's a much ado about something because we saw Ayuk sign, but do the Niners want to sign that 28-year-old wide receiver to a fat contract when they just gave Brandon Ayuk a fat contract as well?
And now they're trying to get rid of Ayuk.
And Ayuk was 27.
The Niners are the most overrated front office of football. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind
to get young if they want to get young. And let's face it, Juwan Jennings hasn't been like their pillar of, oh, this is the guy we need to buy all the time, right? You know, like Juwan Jennings, his career, he went from 282 yards to 416 yards, 265 yards, and 975 yards, has played 2 full seasons. And the question that you have in your mind is, do you want to pay a guy like that monster money? And mostly the answer is probably no. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that.
So I didn't get any correlation.
I'm not going to hate my roster. I don't even want to do a recap of this. This thing is a.
I didn't get any correlation with Bo Nix, but I did get that Fields correlation.
Disgusting.
I'm okay with that.
I want to flush and get on my life.
I have a decent team.
Out of my life right now.
I'm okay with the team that I have here. Saying that I didn't draft who I wanted to draft, but whatever. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. So we'll recap the draft.
To the moon, I'll give it to you. Yeah, Bob. Which one are we doing? Let me sign for anyone.
We're gonna pop for anybody watching right now. We're going to try to fill up a corgi. By
the way, watch live on Mondays and Tuesdays.
So this is a single entry. If you haven't done the single entry, we're gonna give it. We're gonna start. We're gonna click enter at about 4:42 Eastern Standard Time.
Single entry one.
Yeah. If it doesn't fill by 4:45, we're just gonna hop into a puppy. So if this one doesn't fill, this is a corgi. If it doesn't fill by 4:45, we're going to just jump into a puppy. So we're gonna click enter at 4:42. If it doesn't fill, actually we'll click enter at 4:41. So if it doesn't fill by 4:45, we'll just jump into a puppy. These with the single entries, it tends to be a little bit of a hard time. 22,000 entrants in this tournament. 22,166 current entrants. So, you know, this is a low end. You know, you're not the total top prize at 25,000 isn't fantastic, but you know, it is what it is. So Joe, we're in it now. We're waiting for 10 people. Again, if this doesn't fill by 4:45, we'll just hit a puppy. So this is the question. Ryan, we'll get to that comment in a moment. So what we're looking at here about condensing for the 49ers, right, is that you could easily see Brock Purdy situate himself, if this problem continues, to situate himself again around the 2 pillars of this offense in Kittle and CMC. Now with CMC's potential to get injured, it opens the door for guys like Ricky Pearsall to emerge as reliable weapons. We're looking at, you know, a pick here who in week 17 won people money. He was on the Best Ball Mania team that won last year. He was one of the pivotal pieces that helped them win. 23 points in week 17. For a guy that I could get in the 6th round, 7th round right now, if this news for Jennings continues for 2 more weeks, Ricky Pearsall, like right now, Joe, Ricky Pearsall is at his closing line value. Unless
I think he's going to keep going up.
Unless Juwan Jennings news goes crazy. So if you can buy Pearsall now for Pearsall's price now, even if it doesn't turn out to be anything crazy, if you could buy him right now at that price, because if there's a chance Jennings isn't there and there's a chance Ayuk is hurt going into the season, and you get the number 1 wide receiver potentially off of San Francisco, he might climb to the 4th, 5th round. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying that there's a chance that, you know, us, you know, degenerates out there would make him do that. So it's like, I think it's a potential. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I think it's a possibility. And in terms of Jennings,
I lost faith in this. I want to just go do another one.
Yeah, we're just going to go into a puppy, guys. This one is not filling, just like I thought. So we're going to pop into a puppy. Puppy 2, for anybody in the chat wants to get into a puppy 2. We're going to jump into
444,
one right
guys,
now.
at 444.
444. So is Jennings getting traded? Well, this was the news last year about Brandon Ayuk. And the news last year about Brandon Ayuk was Brandon Ayuk's going to be a Steeler. Never happened. He signed
they used the Steelers to negotiate the contract.
Will this continue to be?
He got exactly what the Steelers offered him.
Will this continue to be a thing? I mean, there's other teams in the league that need
but Joe, there's also every team in the league just saw what the Niners do.
Joe, we clicking this at 444, you said?
Yeah, so like basically now.
right now. All right. So we look at this and we say, okay, Jennings getting traded, maybe not. But there's a chance that a guy like Jennings could hold out. I mean, he's making $7.5 million a year. I think he wants up more than that. I don't think he's worth more than that necessarily, but we'll see how it goes. And Ryan, I sent 2 number 2 picks for Tyreek all in this year. I like that. With Jonnu moving on, it tells me as a consumer here of fantasy football that they're confident in Tyreek Hill's health moving forward into this year, and they are making a play to get the ball to Waddle, Tyreek, and HM. I mean, they went out and got Westbrook-Ikhine, and I think Westbrook-Ikhine is a nice, buy in DraftKings and on Underdog. But again, like Tyreek is still Tyreek Hill. We hope. And if you can trade 2 2s for him, I think it's going to be worth it. Yeah, Cup 2.0, man. If Pearsall
here we go.
If Pearsall can lock in, you got a bastard. Come on. Oh my God. 4 and 5. This sucks. Come on. That is so annoying. I hate it. I love it. I hate it at the same time. But my feelings about Pearsall are kind of similar. Not to say that he will be Cup, but he has like kind of that profile to do that. Again, 24 years old, was shot at the beginning of the season. So obviously his production wasn't there. Came in at the back half of the season, 46 total targets across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. So you have to assume, if healthy all season, that he's
getting Debo's work share.
He could be an 86 plus catch target guy. And then you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, well, what's his potential target earning? He could be up there in the 10 targets a game earning category, where he might have a floor of 5 targets a game. I think it's worth enough to take a chance on, because we know the 49ers in this West Coast offense, they love to throw the ball. So, I mean, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. Bold.
Collins is my number 1 receiver, period.
All right. You guys know I like
Jahmyr Gibbs. It sucks with you next to me, though. It absolutely sucks.
I mean, is this going to be a Bucky Gibbs start? I mean, has the audience seen that as much? Yeah, King, we are Steelers fans. We grew up in Pittsburgh. We like Pittsburgh Steelers. Are we a fan of Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely not. What's up, Dark Side? How's it going, man? Are we a fan of that? No. Am I a fan of DK Metcalf? Potentially, yeah. I just think this Steelers team has a lot of stuff going on. If the Niners had Jalen Waddle, I'm not even shitting you, would probably be a 2nd, 3rd round pick for most people. I mean, if they had Waddle, because Waddle is that talented of a player that has just gotten, raked over the coals in terms of like the offense that he's in right now. For a lot of people out there, I know people are just taking in a lot of content right now, but there are a lot of people that were saying what we were saying back in January about Nico and about guys like Puka. These 2 guys, I think, potentially are those wide receivers that, if you are wanting a wide receiver in the 1st round and you don't have to pick 1 or pick 3, that those 2 guys are probably going to be big target earners this year. And again, I can't get around CeeDee Lamb. I really do like CeeDee Lamb. Almost took him there. We talked last time we were together about guys like Brock Bowers, Trey McBride. Keep that as a note for anybody watching right now. Detroit's schedule at the back half of the year is Steelers, Minnesota, Rams. Not necessarily liking any of that.
Who are you taking, Bob?
I'm actually going to go Chase Brown here.
Score.
So the reason I took Chase Brown there is I want to get a little bit of the action on this team in that week 17 game. I also really like this week 7, like I was saying, potentiality of this week 17 schedule for Cincinnati, Baltimore, Miami, and Arizona. I think that those games are probably going to be good back and forth games for Cincinnati. And same goes for Detroit. Hopefully I can get some wide receiver love coming around. You saw me build from the one hole last time, 4 straight wide receivers coming out of the pipe, 4 different wide receivers than this person did. So it gives me a little bit of a leg up there. You see 3 running backs where Breece Hall and JT were taken down here the last draft we were in. So keeping that in mind. There goes Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, Terry McLaurin. Whatever.
Yeah, literally, Bob, this is the first time I have taken McLaurin over Evans. Today I'm going off of floors. And McLaurin has a higher floor than Evans. But Evans has a higher floor.
For those of you watching, I could have absolutely taken a guy like Kyron there to fit that correlation to Jahmyr Gibbs or Brown. But I'm trying to build out just a tad bit more correlations for later on in the draft. Getting Garrett Wilson there opens up to get me flexibility. And this is the other important thing. When you're drafting here, if you go 3 running backs out of the gate to start, you're limiting your flexibility. And we've talked about this before. You're limiting your flexibility later on in the draft because you kind of have to hammer wide receivers going forward. So if a guy like Jalen Hurts falls to you, you have a little bit less flexibility to do that. I do like Devontae Adams, almost went with him there, but I decided to just buy into Garrett Wilson again for the second time. All right, Dark Side, where you at? What position are you in? Oh yeah, you're 12. You're 12. I remember the last time. I think you're 12. I like that start. I like HN. I like AJ Brown. I like Omarion, especially with the fireworks injury to Najee. He didn't lose an eye like we were talking about last week.
Yeah, they basically said he'll be fine.
So King, I think you're going to see a decent split to begin the season between the two of them. I don't think that Jaylen Warren is going to go away just yet, but I don't think that he's going to be like what we said about the Steelers last week is they're going to be running the ball like potentially 30 some times a game, right? So splitting those carries up. Best value on the board, Joe. Sorry. So I honestly didn't think he'd fall down to 44. Not like I wanted him, but again, I took Garrett Wilson there to open up that flexibility. So sorry to do that to you. You can always go Bo Nix later. But when we looked at the Steelers numbers in terms of rushing attempts, and I believe we took this to team rankings last year to look at their total rushing attempts per game. The Steelers are sitting at 30 rushing attempts per game last year. And if you split that up between 2 guys, you're guaranteeing at least 15 carries for one guy. Realistically speaking, Caleb Johnson's probably going to get 20-ish carries at some point during the season.
Bob, what? You love Cortland Sutton.
Well, Cortland Sutton wasn't on the board. You took him. You could
have taken him instead of Daniels.
I could have, but I don't love Cortland Sutton, but I could have.
You do.
Honestly, Joe, I didn't even realize you had Terry McLaurin there. Yeah, I'm taking. So when I look at this board,
this is my first build with McLaurin and Burrow. I can tell you that for sure.
When I look at this build here and I see Ladd in the second round and I see that I can get Garrett Wilson in the third, the question that you have to ask yourself is, do you think that Ladd McConkey is going to get a similar-ish target share as he got last year? I don't see a reason why he wouldn't, because 112 targets in an offense that's led by Justin Herbert isn't totally unusual to see. Maybe he slides back to 100 targets, but he's a reliable catch guy. Will Garrett Wilson get 112 targets if Justin Fields can manage it, right? I mean, people made so many comparisons between Garrett Wilson and DJ Moore recently that I think that you can't really – DJ Moore's ability to get open after the catch, et cetera, and all this other stuff is way different than Garrett Wilson. So, looking at those 2 guys, who do you profile? I think the question to ask yourself insofar as who do you profile as having more touchdowns or more potential to get touchdowns? And I think that's why Ladd is kind of up there a little bit higher. because I do think people have more confidence in Justin Herbert than they do in Justin Fields. But if you have confidence in Justin Fields as a passer, you could slot Garrett Wilson ahead of Ladd McConkey, and I think the opportunities will be there. Would I take Rashee Rice over them? Probably. In certain other builds, probably.
Yeah, Jennings slid. He slid about half a round.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm gonna go Trevion here. Get a little bit of Jets back forth action week 17. Got Travis Hunter week 15. It's hard to build off of Jaden Daniels though. Debo's not there anymore. I like building Jaden Daniels with Debo. Way back in the winter, after Debo got traded to Washington, we were talking about Debo's potential as a whole team. I do think Debo kind of kills a little bit of the value and momentum that Daniels had. He was going like in the second round of some drafts, obviously falling down to the fourth.
Did you see Mike Williams on the pup list?
Would you say Mike Williams?
Yeah.
Mike Williams. Who cares?
It's interesting. He was one of those guys back at draft time that I was giving love to over QJ.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We took Swift there. I don't really like DeAndre Swift too much, but as I said during the last draft, I'm willing to take some guys. I'm willing to take some guys that I don't usually take, especially if I've already built out a room that I like in Gibbs and Chase Brown with Trevion. I'm willing to add in DeAndre Swift there for a Ben Johnson kind of build in. All right, let's check out Darkside's team here, Joe. He's got Achane, Hampton, and Harvey. I think there's a lot of upside with all three of those picks. I know you don't like Tet. I don't mind him there. AJ Brown, Tet, Debo. Yeah, man. I think Debo as a third wide receiver, Joe. I know everything we said.
Yeah, I would have taken Hurts instead of Hampton if I were you, Darkside.
Debo is great value there down there in the 6th. You see continuous fall of Judkins now, guys. We'll see if Darkside clicks on Judkins. Have I drafted on the draft on the app Drafters? I haven't. I've heard a little bit about it recently. I also heard about like Fast Draft with like the Rabbit Draft. Haven't done any drafting on those apps. Just on Underdog, DraftKings, and way back in the day, Joe, like 3-4 years ago when FanDuel used to have drafts that filled too. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, we used to do those.
But they don't seem to do those anymore. Cooper Kupp has been an interesting pick. I have seen teams, especially on DraftKings, where Cooper Kupp slides really, really far. Again, I've been putting him here and there on teams as like a 4th wide receiver, 5th wide receiver. But there's not a lot of confidence in Cooper Kupp. He has seemed to have slowed down a significant portion as we go into, heading into this year. So we'll see.
Do you have confidence in Seattle at all? Like, I don't think I do anymore.
I do. I don't have a problem with Seattle at all.
See, I don't have confidence in him.
Judkins falling to pick 91. If he plays, that's going to be some really, really good value.
He's thinking.
Took Patrick Mahomes. I didn't mean to do that. That was an auto click. Oh, well.
Well, you're thinking too much.
Well,
now you're done at quarterback.
Yeah. I was going to build Justin Fields, but that's okay.
You still can go Fields to be just done.
What'd you say?
So you still could go Fields to be done.
Yeah. That was an auto pick by me. I wasn't paying attention. I was talking.
You do love talking. Okay. It's one of your pastimes.
That's all right. Because I was going to build in some Drake May potentially, but Patrick Mahomes kind of screws that. That's all right. We'll lock in. Lock in a little bit here. Get some Trey. We'll take Trey. All right, we're going to take Trey. Still unsigned. It's okay. 2 rooks in the room at wide receiver. Could get some potential volume. Not hating that. pick Trey to kind of go with that Mahomes. I don't really like that Mahomes auto click for me. It's all right.
Most people hate auto clicks. There's no way around that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it. I don't even think Mahomes was the best option on that board, but whatever. I'm surprised you didn't.
Not.
What'd you say?
Did you have him in your queue?
No, he wasn't in my queue. I was adding Tracy to my queue because I was going to take Tracy. But this opens the door to some Denver, Tennessee Chargers love. Not necessarily like the best of the best. Have to build something else in there. Daniels don't have a naked Daniels. That is what it is. I might build Zach Ertz a little bit later. Let's see what we got going on here. Yeah, Darnold and Cup could be unbelievable, but I tend to think that, we can't. I'm having a hard time kind of figuring out why they went after Cup when JSN profiles in a similar situation, right?
That's the big question.
I don't see JSN can be, I guess, an outside guy there. Ooh, dark side taking your boy, Tyler Warren. Double tight end. He did take Justin Fields there. Justin Fields fell in value. I think you had to take him. That's why, guys, like this auto click of Mahomes is not the best because we might get like a Mahomes, elite option Mahomes again. But we might not. There's a chance that kind of goes by the wayside. But he has a ton of targets. Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown. If Hollywood Brown can stay healthy, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. So, if you want to take some chances here and there on a guy like Patrick Mahomes, by far and away, do it. And I'll take the falling value of Travis Kelce, I guess. Might as well buy into the mistake a little bit, right, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, lean into it, man. Once you mess up,
lean into it a little bit. All right, so we do need to clean up.
The rub.
We do need to clean this up a little bit. I got Trey Harris. I got Trey Harris to back into that Kansas City.
Your team is way grosser than my team this time. Like, I was very gross in the first draft. Yours getting a little ugly, a little too fresh, a little too much young blood there.
A little too fresh.
Yeah, I don't.
What'd you say?
I don't see what the Chargers are seeing in terms of Trey Harris seeing that he's going to supplant Ladd. I don't even see him come close to that.
I mean, yeah, okay. I can make the argument either way on that. But when we look at this wide receiving room, again, we were just talking about it when we were talking about Ladd McConkey. It is a weird room, right? It's a room that has Mike Williams coming back, Ladd McConkey, who we obviously know is in the slot, and Quentin Johnston, who, if he could get his hands right, he feels like the kid from the Little Giants at times where, he can't catch the ball when he's given the opportunity to catch it. So, is there a room for Trey Harris to be good? Yeah, absolutely. Justin Herbert's a great quarterback, Joe. This offensive scheme might not work in Trey Harris's favor, but it's, again, like he's a guy that could potentially land year end, maybe over 1,000 yards. More likely in that 800 yards category, probably at least 55-ish target or 55-ish catches, somewhere in there. We're just hoping that he could get some yards after the catch and be good. I mean, like, when we're looking down here at wide receivers, Joe, looking at the wide receivers from round 9 on.
There hasn't been a lot of them. I like that.
Outside of Tillman and maybe Bateman, right? Those 4 wide receivers are all guys that there's a lot up in the air, right?
Coleman and Mims could be dudes.
People are not taking wide receivers in this round. Once you clear Rashid Shaheed, people are not clicking wide receivers. And I think that it could provide you with an advantage if you have 3 wide receivers from this kind of framework, because nobody's clicking them. Somebody will eventually click them, but those are teams that aren't going to have your Drake Mays and your Trevor Lawrences and such. You get what I'm saying?
I totally get you.
It's a weird circumstance. And I'm clicking another rook. Not letting him continue to fall.
You just threw your money away. I appreciate it.
I have correlations, so I'm okay with correlations to certain players, to certain builds.
You don't have field time.
What?
He's gonna get you want.
Time.
The guy's never on the field. Who cares?
He's gonna get on the field. Again, we want players that. Again, when I'm thinking about this draft specifically, I want players that are a little bit in ambiguous situations to capture some of that value. There's a chance that Kyle Williams outplays this ADP. There's a chance that he doesn't. If he does, great. If he doesn't, this team's probably not going to go anywhere. But again, I'm willing to take shots on certain players. I'm willing to buy into, some talent. There's got to be some talent there. You drafted them with a decent amount of draft capital. So why not take a shot?
Why not take a shot?
You're up. Who did you queue up? Who you taking here? You bastard. Bastard. All right.
I'm done my running back room. My running back room ends up being Bucky, Monty, Warren, Tracy, White.
So Dark Side, when it comes to this Seahawks running condensed formations, I absolutely see it. Whether you like Charbonnet or whether you like Walker, this is going to be like the JSN Cup show, and you're going to catch a couple of passes. Torrey Horton and Marquise Valdez-Scantling are going to clear a decent amount. I think a decent amount of touchdowns this year, and I think they're worth some late round picks. We've been taking a lot of stabs at him. Family, I feel like I did an overpay in Dynasty this week. It was tough dealing with the guy. Mandrews, Blue, and Kirk for Kittle and Trubisky. Most backups are rostered at this point, and I added Naylor. Were you the man? Did you give Mandrews or did you get Mandrews? Because I like Kittle. I think that it is a bit of an overpay if you're getting into Kittle. But I think that there's enough that we don't know about Blue, who I just took, and enough that makes you warranted concern for maybe Christian Kirk to get into a guy like Kittle. I think it's fine.
I'm not sure I'm concerned about Kirk.
What's weird about Kirk?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm concerned about him.
Well, I think a lot of people are not looking at him in the way that maybe they need to, right? So
he's looking at a veteran established number 2 on a great passing team.
Well, maybe. You profile them as established. You profile them as a great team, but
I do profile them.
He's only eclipsed 1,000 yards once in his career, starting in 2018. Okay. His highest reception total is 84, and it was that 1 year in Jacksonville. And every other year, he's played 17 games twice. Every other year, he hasn't played a full season. So there's enough to be concerned about with a guy like Kirk that people aren't chomping at the bit to go and get him.
I get it. It's just situation-wise, I think he'd be worth more. Quite frankly, it's just how I look at it.
That's fair. It's totally fair. All right, so Magic.
I might as well get one of his pass catchers.
Oh, mine as well. I mean, that's kind of how I felt about the auto pick of Mahomes. So Magic, rank these 3: Tyreek, JSN, Marv. For me right now, as I sit here today, I'm probably Marv, JSN, Tyreek. But depends on what's coming out of camp, coming up soon with training camps and stuff. I could easily put Tyreek a little higher, but I think Marv, JSN are in good situations where they should be successful for what they're going to be asked to do. Ooh.
What are you oohing over there? Take Samson. You know you want to.
Strange. I almost clicked Henry, but I think
I love how my last pick started a tight end run.
Option. What'd you say?
So I love how basically my last pick caused a tight end run, and the pick before that.
Your last pick kind of started a tight end run. The pick before that, the running back one definitely did.
Yeah,
that definitely did. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if tight end was your biggest weakness, I think going after Kittle's smart. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. When it comes to a guy like Bateman, family, I'm not scared. I mean, if you were with us last year, you know that he's one of the guys that I absolutely hated going into the season last year. Joe was like, you got to take Bateman, you got to take Bateman. I was like, well, for the most part, Lamar Jackson has not discovered who Rashad Bateman has been.
Bateman hadn't discovered who he was last year. I just had faith.
Last year.
We also Bateman in the 18th round, by the way, last year.
Yeah.
16th, 18th round, somewhere in there, especially on
now,
draft.
I do expect him not to get, a crazy number of touchdowns, but this offense is good. This is a good offense, and he was a touchdown machine last year, 9 touchdowns. Say he regresses to 7 and maybe they give him a little bit more catches. Sure, I'm willing to buy into that. I'm not willing to buy in so much on DeAndre Hopkins, although DeAndre Hopkins has a good amount of value too. So, I mean, like, we've got to ask ourselves, like, yeah, Rashad Bateman might slot into my third slot more often than not, but I'm willing to take some chances in a draft like this. It's not something that I'm like overjoyed in, but I am willing to take chances and get messy. You know what I'm saying? Moving on from Kirk. Yeah. Like moving on from Kirk, whether depending on how your team is built makes sense, right? Like I said, like we just pulled up the stats. He only got 1,000 yards once in his career. Can he do it again? He absolutely can do it again. But they did go out. They traded for him, or they got him. Then they went out and bought 2 wide receivers in the draft, right? So it's like
Anthony Richardson in the 17th. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
everyone hates that guy.
It's the Wild West. Your boy Wan'Dale Robinson's still on the board, Joe.
Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't get the ball thrown to him from Joe Burrow.
My boy's still on the field, though. This wide receiver room is like this wide receiver room is way different than the one I built for the last team.
Sure,
but that's almost a 20-point or 20 ADP drop for Alec Pierce. I'm willing to buy that.
Sure.
Yeah, getting sniped out of all your stacks.
A whole hell of a lot more than the last one. I would have liked it a lot more with Daniels on it than Burrow, but forcing some Cincinnati stacks ain't the end of the world either.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're down here in the back end, with Gesicki in the 14th and Yoshivas in the 17th, I don't think it's bad at all. Darkside's team here is Fields, Herbie, and Darnold, so a 3-quarterback build. I like those sometimes. I like the 3-quarterback builds sometimes, especially if you don't go after one of the top quarterbacks. HN, Hampton, Harvey, Ray Davis, Tank Bigsby. There's a lot of potential there. I like that.
Hey,
wide receiver, AJ Brown.
You were the one who told us to start looking into Thornton around the combine, I believe.
Yeah. No, that's true. Darkside was the one that was like, hey, combine's coming up. I love Dante Thornton. He's a burner. I think you should draft him. We started drafting him in the 20th round of some DraftKings drafts. Now he's getting good looks. And people are buying into him more and more. So I think I like it.
Oh, Freiermuth, last round used to be a solid 12.
Yeah, I think the ADP drop for Freiermuth is insanity.
It ain't over yet.
Could be worth picking him up here and there, though. To be honest,
could be. But you know who you don't see on here, Bob? You do not see the number 2 Steelers receiver.
No, Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin is projecting to be that. Roman Wilson isn't on here.
Yeah, Roman Wilson. I don't see Austin either, though, unless I missed him.
Austin's right here at 207.
207. Okay.
But again, like I said, if there's enough news out there that says Jennings could be a Steeler, Austin's going to climb off the board.
Yeah, Austin's done.
Ripples like that really affect everything.
I don't really like taking rookies a lot, but I do like the one in Tennessee.
I want to get to these 2 comments here, Joe, and I am going to rack up another one. I know Joe might not be able to stay.
No, I'm not going to be able to. I got to bounce on this. So hit me with your comments, and I got to bounce.
I am going to rack up another one. But family, in terms of Hopkins, I do think Hopkins is there to distract defenses. I don't think he's going to get over like 35-ish catches in this offense. I mean, there's a framework that he can, but with it being so heavy.
Tim, I just want to lead on a Hopkins question. Baltimore's offense is good, but the thing is that they don't use old receivers well at all. They don't. He's not fast enough to play the Lamar style he's going to be in the way in more ways than one. And then
thing
if
is,
I can leave as a Steelers fan, hating on the Ravens, that's how I'm walking out the stage. You guys have a good one. I'll see y'all Wednesday.
Bateman is fast enough. So Dark Side, talk to me about Tesla. We're going to rack up another draft here, guys. We're going to go at 5-16. We're going to draft another puppy 2. So anybody in the chat right now that wants to get into another puppy, we're going to rack up another puppy 2 at 5:16 Eastern Standard Time. Darkside, talk to us about Tesla. For me, Tesla is a guy that I want in Dynasty, but this year I'm not real sure. You know, there is what's up, Jamie? How's it going? We're going to rack up another puppy 2 on Underdog at 5:16. So if you want to jump in, feel free. Tesla's a guy I'm definitely buying in Dynasty. You know, there has been those little, you know, rumors this year that Jameson Williams, they don't want to give him a contract. So maybe he goes traded by the deadline. Maybe this is an opportunity for Tesla. Outside of Laporta and Amon-Ra, there's, you know, nothing else in that room. I could see it working out, man. I could see him being that 18th round guy. 6'5", runs a 4.3, and they traded 3 third-round picks to get him. Practically a first-round pick. I agree with that. Could be definitely an elite option. If you can get Thornton and Tesla in that, you know, 15th, 16th, 17th round, somewhere in there, I think that's epic. And I especially like something like that on DraftKings where we have 20 rounds. So you have like a couple of players to play with. I've thrown Tesla in on a couple of teams for sure. I've bought more Dante Thornton than Tesla, to be honest with you. I might try to buy more depending on my position. Io Manor, here's the thing. Joe and I were talking about this via text. So 5:16, I'm going to click enter in on this puppy 2 for anybody that wants to join in. We were going through, you know, looking at team rankings and taking a look at the potentiality for target distribution for the Titans, and on team rankings and on Fantasy Pros. So I'm jumping in right now, guys. On team rankings and Fantasy Pros, there was some interesting stats that, you know, Chig is one of those guys that that might be a good buy. Same with a guy like Gunnar Helm, because the distribution for targets is not so much skewed to the wide receivers. So let's pull that up. And there's a likelihood that Cam Ward does pass for a decent amount like he did last year. Or like they did last year with Levis and Mason Rudolph. But you've got to really believe that those targets are going to be Calvin Ridley-like targets. So the Tennessee Titans, their wide receiver out of the whole team, right? So out of the whole team of wide receiver targets for the Titans, they were sitting at about 55% of the team's targets went to the wide receiver position, which is bottom third in the league. Okay. You're looking at Saints, Raiders, Cardinals, Chiefs, Steelers, Dolphins, Patriots, Ravens, Titans. Okay. Then you have tight end targets, where the tight end targets for the Tennessee Titans were in the top third of the league. 25% of the team's targets went to tight end, 18% went to running back. So I think it's going to be an interesting situation when we look at a guy like Io Manor, you know, what will happen there. We're going to throw, we're going to do a Puka build here, guys. So last draft got Gibbs. This draft went after Puka at the 5 spot. We'll be drafting a little bit differently this time. Yeah, he can absolutely be a wide receiver too. Right now, I mean, obviously Treylon Burks isn't going to be like anything to worry about, and Tyler Lockett shouldn't be anything to worry about too. So if we take a look at where the Titans threw the ball last year, this comes from Fantasy Pros. Calvin Ridley got 120 targets. Westbrook Ikine got 60 targets. Boyd got 57 targets for a total of 282 targets to wide receivers. So if you figure that Cam Ward's going to come in and throw a similar-ish amount of passes as the 2 quarterbacks last year, that leaves, you know, when you subtract Calvin Ridley's 120 targets, even if you take that down to 100, let me make this pick here. Even if you take it down to 100, it leaves a lot of room on the table for somebody to make their mark. So do we want, okay, we're going to build Tyreek Hill. I know you guys don't normally see me passing on Bucky or JT there, but I want to get 2 wide receivers set up here. We were just talking a little bit about Miami earlier. So I'm willing to take a chance on Puka and Tyreek Hill here, knowing that Puka usually goes in that 7 time frame, knowing that he's usually not paired up with Tyreek. Also gives me some back half quarterback love, so I don't need to push a quarterback early. Stafford, Tua, definitely not the pillars of health, but we'll see what comes back to us at 29. We might be able to get Chase Brown here. We might be able to build again. Garrett Wilson's such an easy click there. Correlation schedule-wise, we'll see here what's coming up. So Miami's schedule is looking like Steelers, Cincinnati, Tampa. It'd be nice if Chase Brown was still on the board. If he's not, that's okay. There goes Bucky there at the turn. I often see Jamar, Bucky, Trey. That's a build I see a lot of because of the correlation to Arizona. All right, so let's pump it up here. Let's get our third round pick here. All right, Chase Brown's still on the board. So we're going to push Chase Brown in there. He does have a week 16 correlation to Miami. So I'm willing to buy in. Again, when we've talked in the chat and when we talked over the weeks, week 17 is very, very important. But we want to have teams that are going to have players that gets my week 17 stack to the finals. And week 16, I want to take a look at some games that could potentially be high-scoring games. One of them, Cincinnati plays Miami. So if I want to get some Miami players through to that Tampa game, that's going to be a pretty nice build in there. Looking at some other games as well, you have Denver at Jacksonville. This is a good way to get some Denver teams into that last round. It's a good way to get some Jacksonville teams in the last round. When we look at Jacksonville's schedule, we have, it actually might be a way to protect Jacksonville to get into Indy in week 17. So I think that all things are set, all things said, there we have it, guys. George Kittle in the third. Like I was saying to you all earlier in the show, the news about Juwan Jennings is going to scare enough people to push George Kittle up into the third round, and it happened here today. So typically speaking, he's a 4th round guy. Here, pushed up into the 3rd round. Not saying it's a bad thing, but I definitely would probably pump the brakes on it a little bit more than I would usually do. So we have Detroit, Seattle, Atlanta open for us here. All right, we might take Ted there if he's there. Let's see. So JMO goes. Jalen Hurts is still there. We'll take Ted. Usually don't buy Ted, but I think when we look at the 4th round, good enough value in the 4th round. As Joe said, that he's not a super big fan of Ted going into the season. I can see in general, he's not a Bryce Young guy. So, buying into Carolina for him is a little bit tricky. But, where his value is right now, especially when you're looking for a 3rd wide receiver, as your first one, maybe you're a little bit more hesitant for it. But for your 3rd one, not too terrible. So Carolina has week 15 New Orleans, week 16 Tampa, week 17 Seattle. So maybe we come back, grab Ken Walker. Maybe we wait on Ken Walker. We don't take Ken Walker. Maybe we take a late Charbonnet. Opens the door for us a lot. Unstack Jalen Hurts with Marv, Brock Bowers, and Bijan. An interesting build there, to say the least. Again, I don't want to push any stack that doesn't necessarily need to be there. But correlations are nice for sure. Miami again has Steelers, Cincy, Tampa. Might, yeah. You know what? We're going to get Kamara here. Typically, I like to go Ken Walker there. Sometimes Kamara falls into the 6th round. If you were with us for our first Best Ball Mania, you'll notice that Kamara was kind of firmly planted there in the 6th round. But again, in these fast puppy or in the puppy 2, he's climbed up a little bit more. Do I have any correlation yet for New Orleans? No, but I think he does have, or I have a week 15 with Carolina. I could build out maybe some Tennessee week 17 a little bit later. I'm willing to take a couple of chances in these tournaments, building some unique-ish enough rosters that I don't normally build to get a couple more, exposures on, in this build particularly. I have 2 running backs right now coming out of the 5th round, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. It's balanced enough. It leaves me flexibility to catch some value here in the 6th, 7th round. Ridley dropping there to the bottom of the 5th round. I like Nico, JSN, Ridley, Rome. Rome as kind of like the upstart, the upswing guy that could potentially launch in there, taking over the flex spot for you. I like that a lot. So Joe Burrow continues to fall. I'd like to get Chris Godwin here, and that's what's going to happen. Optimism for week 1. So we have some week 17 correlation there with Tyreek and Godwin. It opens the door that maybe I want to buy Baker, but with Tristan Wirfs being injured first half of the season, maybe you want to buy a little bit of less of Baker. He'll fall a little bit more. Tampa Bay schedule is Atlanta, Carolina, Miami. So I've got some week 16 Carolina correlation to Tampa. If I want to buy Baker here at 92, he probably will be available for me at 92. ADP at 93. I'll put him on the board. I definitely will probably building either Stafford or Tua in this build as well to get some correlation to the top wide receiver there. It opens the door to Bryce Young. So if I don't want to take Tua and I don't want to take Stafford, opens the door to Bryce Young. This could be a Baker Bryce Young team. Get some maybe Seattle correlation a little bit later. We have a lot of good options at running back still on the board. So we'll see what falls. This could be a Pollard team. Maybe I can push Mooney here, but I do want another running back. Yeah. All right. So Caleb's still there. So we'll take Caleb Johnson. For everybody watching right now, this is our 3rd draft of the day. We did 2 puppy 2s coming into this draft. Joe and I were doing, we basically were right next to one another all the time. It was kind of annoying. But as we look at this draft right now, the distribution of players is decently even amount. One of the things to kind of point out for anybody drafting and anybody that's, absorbing content is Joe Burrow continues to drop. So if you are targeting Burrow and you are, the Higgins owner, the Jamar owner, just know people at the top half of the 6th round are most likely not going to let him continue to slide. We saw it last week where they did let him slide to the 7th round. But keep your eye on that. If you own Jamar or you own Higgins and you want Burrow, you may have to take him in the 5th because he's talented enough that people aren't going to want to continue to let him slide. So just, keep that in mind. Judkins is still on the board, ADP 77. With the news that came across the wire this weekend, people are hesitant, to say the very least. Very, very, very hesitant to pull up and take Quinshon Judkins. I can see this guy at 4 taking the value of Quinshon Judkins if he's still there. Like I said, I'm probably going to push Baker here at 92 because I don't see any quarterbacks on this side. There's Baker goes to 90. So that kind of screws us. That's okay. Could take Cooper Kupp here. Wouldn't mind that. But I am going to buy the falling value that is Judkins, 4th running back. I don't mind it at all. If he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Judkins is one of those guys that could be a lightning rod for the team, be really good. Like I said, I love Dylan Sampson down here, guys, in the 16th round. I have more Dylan Sampson than I think most people do. But I'm willing to take a shot. Like I said, I wanted Baker there. If I get Judkins, that's fine. It's 20 spots below ADP. He could potentially continue to fall depending on what the news that will come back from that would be. If he doesn't, so be it. We don't have a quarterback built in yet. Like I said, we no longer have the option for Godwin's quarterback. We might just build Tracy here. I think Tracy is talented enough. Mason gives me a little bit of Minnesota action. Maybe. Okay. Bo Nix continuing to fall. Interesting. I mean, it's just interesting. If Bo continues to fall, there goes Bo. Falling. You know what? We're just going to click Bo. Have an unstacked Bo. We'll probably build Bryce Young into it. That's fine. I can't let him continue. Like when he slips, I mean, I know it's only like a 4-spot ADP difference, but Evan Ingram, I like him a lot. I think Evan Ingram, usually if I'm sitting somewhere in this like 1-2 hole, you can get Bo Nix, Evan Ingram. I think it's a nice, interesting stack. This opens the door for Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant as well to build into this team right here. I think the wide receivers, if we can stay away from injuries, are solid enough. Running backs have an uphill battle to climb potentially, but we'll see how this shakes down. Travis Kelce going 105. Again, remember, we pointed this out as once you get past Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, and Rashid Shaheed, this wide receiver run there's not going to be a lot of wide receivers in here. That you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of running backs, a lot of tight ends coming off the board relatively soon. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for a wide receiver, you could come out with some really good value here from the wide receiver bandwagon. All right, so if I can get Charbonnet here, I'll probably stop running backs for a bit. Some good value here at quarterback. Andrews is still continuing to drop a little bit past ADP. Keep your eyes on that. Stevenson, I think, is a tremendous pick around this ADP as well. He could turn out and do nothing, could do something. We'll see. This is either going to be Spears or Charbonnet, whichever one's left on the board. I assume this guy's taking Sharps. We'll see. All right, cool. We'll take Charbonnet. If Ken Walker plays a full season, that pick is kind of a waste, when you look at the whole encompassing value of Seattle. If he doesn't, it gives us a little bit of correlation to potentially Carolina in week 17 and has a decent amount of value for us likewise. Also plays the Rams in week 16. So it's nice to get a couple Seattle guys in there. Maybe we throw a couple wide receivers from Seattle on this roster at the back end. Maybe a late Valdez-Scantling could be in there. The question is, does this pick become Mims? Give us another week 12 guy. Do we wait for Pat Bryant? That's the question here. I like White against Miami. All right, let's see here. Next pick would be 140. It's right around where White's value is. Hi. Come on over. You want to sit with Daddy? Say hi. No, you can't click all the buttons. You can't click all the buttons. Sorry. You can't click on the buttons. You can't click on the buttons. All right. Oof. We'll build Mims. I like Tootin there as well, but we'll build Mims. Do something with Bonix. You want to say hi? Say hi. Hi, everybody. Shake your hand. Say hi. 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 Oh, you can't click those buttons. No. All right. Go ahead, get your board. Get your board off the table. Look, that's brand new. Yeah, it's brand new. All right, so we're down here in the 11th round. Hopefully Rachaad White makes it back to us to complete that running back room. It would be 6 running backs. If he doesn't, I'm probably gonna push Tillman regardless, and probably Bryce Young. Those are probably gonna be the next 2 picks. And then we don't need Rachaad White. It'd be nice to add him, but we don't need him. Probably go after those guys. And then coming down in the 14th, 15th round, because I took Judkins, I'm probably not going to take Sampson, even though he's a player that I think has a lot of value there. Tootin slides. Watch out for this because his closing line value is going to be way different depending on what we hear in the news. So he might climb past ETN value. That's why I'm trying to snap up as much Tootin as I can right now, because there's a chance if he earns a good part of that job, he could climb up into the 9th round. All right, so we're going to take Tillman here. Tillman climbing more than I'd like to pay for him. Remember, guys, a couple of weeks ago, Tillman's value was sitting around 170 ADP. Then he climbed up to 155, 154, and now he's consistently in this 144 range. So keep your eye on guys like Cedric Tillman because his closing line value is probably not where it's going to be at yet. It is continuing to climb. It's fairly consistent climb for him. So if you want him, this is probably your last chance to buy him low when we think about just in terms of the closing line value. Similar to guys that you're buying low potentially right now, depending on what camp is going to turn out, Jadon Blue. Jadon Blue is a guy that depends on, how does Javonte Williams look? How does Jadon Blue look? How does Miles Sanders look? It's interesting enough for me to want to buy as much Jadon Blue as I can now. Do I think he's a great value? In some drafts, yes. In some drafts, no. Would I push him more than Tootin? Probably equally. But Jadon Blue and Tootin are guys that can see that aren't that may not be at their closing line value right now. So coming into August, once we get past July, coming into August, you could potentially see them climb depending on how those camp battles turned out. So right now, guys, if you just joined, we are doing a puppy 2. We're sitting here at the 5th pick. We did not get the quarterback that we wanted. We wanted Baker to get us into a little bit of a week 17 correlation there with Godwin and Tyreek. But we pivoted into Bo Nix. We don't have any correlation necessarily to Kansas City, but we do have some mini stacks here. I wanted to get Tootin for that week 16 potential build there. We do have some Seattle with the Rams, Carolina. We have Rams, Carolina. We have Tampa, Carolina. We have Carolina, New Orleans, just some minis in there. I went Bryce Young, had Ted. When you diversify your wide receivers in these rooms, giving yourself a bunch of different options at some quarterbacks. So if you're taking all wide receivers that have high-end quarterbacks, it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to force stacks, and you want some flexibility. This gives you that flexibility that you can have on your team. I think it's worth investing in. And maybe I take another quarterback. Maybe I don't. Maybe I lay into this back-end Denver thing and I take Pat Bryant. Maybe I don't. Maybe I take Adam Thielen here. We'll see how the room falls. Now, most likely getting some tight end action with Chig a little bit later. Chig's ADP is 187. So we're going to take Thielen here, double up on Bryce Young. I could double up on Coker later. When you take Bryce Young, I think you have a lot of options with Ted, Thielen, and Coker. Take 2 out of the 3. Maybe you want to take all 3 if you feel so inclined to do that. This I have Thielen and Ted. I'm okay with that. 2-week 9 buys, 2-week 14 buys. Running back room is kind of all over the place. We're at the back half of the draft now. Yeah, King, this is the thing. Like, this Judkins situation in Dynasty, it's definitely harder to figure out than right now in best ball. I think in best ball, I'm willing to go a little bit more than I would normally into Quinshon Judkins. I see the value is there right now. The value is absolutely there right now that you can get into him at an affordable price that you couldn't before. So you couldn't get into him at that price before, but now you can. So, the options for you to buy maybe for the next 2 weeks are going to be good options for you to buy Judkins. Okay. For the next 2 weeks until we get the situation cleared up, till his contract isn't signed. Again, they drafted him like he's going to be their guy. And right now, with that kind of attitude and disposition, they're already dealing with some of the attitude stuff, in terms of from the Sanders camp. Again, not criminal or anything, but still, like when you're looking at where to get value from right now, we'll pull up and we'll see where Judkins was going a week or 2 ago. Okay. So right now in this draft, Judkins came to me down there in the 8th round. Okay. His ADP still says 77. People are not taking many chances on him at 77. So that let's just make that clear. People are not taking chances on him at 77. So let's we'll see what we can find out. So we're gonna probably take Jawan Johnson on this team. If Alec Pierce continues to slide, I'm willing to buy Alec Pierce. Chase Brown, Kamara, Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, Charbonnet. Okay, I'm willing to deal with that. Yeah, this will not be a multi-quarterback roster, I don't think. I don't think I'll be taking 2-3 quarterbacks. But yeah, King, stay after this draft. I'm just going to pull up some of the drafts that I did prior to see where Judkins was as opposed to where he is now. I'm always willing to take a chance on Alec Pierce. Call me crazy, call me delusional, call me whatever you want to say. But Alec Pierce here, 10 spots behind ADP. Will he continue to drop depending on what news comes out? I mean, Daniel Jones can sling the ball too, guys. I mean, let's not forget about that. Daniel Jones can support some wide receivers as well. Let's take a look at targets. I believe Daniel Jones. We'll see what Daniel Jones' best season was. I think it was like 2022 or something like that. I do want to get another tight end here This will be a 3 tight end build. So I'm going to go 2 tight ends here to close it out. We're going to close it out with, actually, we're going to take Theo Johnson over Jawan Johnson. I like Theo Johnson's opportunities a little bit more. So, all right. So Daniel Jones's best season was 2019, 24 touchdowns passing. So let's go down to 2019 and let's take a look at the wide receiver market in 2019. I know this, 6 years ago, but just kind of get a framework for when he had his best season. What are we looking at here? So in 2019, targets were as such for the Giants. Pretty even all over the place. Golden Tate, 85. Darius Slayton, 84. Sterling Shepard, 83. For a total of 350 total targets, which ranked them as one of the top teams in the league in terms of targeting wide receivers. So let's go to 2020. Again, we're just kind of experimenting with some numbers here. 2022, he had his next best passing season. So going to 2022, and we take a look at these targets. Week 1 to week 18. Total targets. They're kind of in the middle of the pack. Again, 71 targets for Slayton, 70 to Richie James, 42 to Isaiah Hodgins. Again, some of these players profile to work the same kind of way that Alec Pierce does. So I think that he could be fine either way. So we have 2 options here. I think I'm just going to roll we're going to go Ferguson. You know what? Yeah. We're going to do Ferguson. So let's pull up. This draft was a good one. King, like I said, I'm going to pull up some draft capital just to kind of look at where Quinshon Judkins was at before the news, now where he is at, to see if we're catching some value if he plays, or if not. So let's go to the drafts. Let's go to our completeds. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at some Best Ball Mania. So this was the Best Ball Mania team that we drafted live on air the day that Best Ball Mania opened up. Okay. So the day that Best Ball Mania opened up, Judkins is sitting in the 6th round. Okay. Over Connor, over Johnson, over Montgomery, over Harvey, over Pollard, over Najee. Okay. So back when we drafted this team, when Best Ball Mania opened up, Judkins was sitting at 66. Okay. This team we drafted, I believe, a couple weeks later, and Quinshon Judkins is still in the 6th round. Okay. Now let's go to one of the little Dalmatians that I did. These were dollar drafts that I did. And this one was before the news broke. So this is, I believe, before the news broke on Judkins. ADP being drafted right around his ADP. So from the time of when Best Ball Mania was released this year to now, we have Quinshon Judkins going from 6th round value down to 7th round value. Now, let's take a look at the drafts we did today after the news. After the news set. So this is the team we drafted first. Judkins going 8th round, pick 87. Going back again, this was the team that we drafted 2nd today. Judkins going 8th round, pick 91. And then the team that we just drafted, refresh. the team we just drafted, which was this one, Judkins going pick 92 in the 8th round. So again, dropping from 6th round to 7th round to 8th round. And if you want to buy, if you want to get in on Judkins now, I'm not saying that like you should, but if you absolutely wanted to get on Judkins Rabona, you know, now's the time to buy him, because we looked at the starting opening this tournament, round 6, a couple weeks later, round 7. Question is, does he drop to round 9? With the news that's happening and with everything that's going to come after it, will people want to take Tyrone Tracy, who's much maligned, over Judkins? Will they want to take Jalen Warren over Judkins? Would they want to take Cam Scadaboo over Judkins? You can make a reasonable argument that these 4 guys here might go above Judkins, but talent level wise, maybe not. And so each room is going to be different. But in Dynasty, it's going to be tough to figure out what Judkins' value is with the whole situation that's happening. But I think in best ball, now's the time to kind of take some shots, because if you need a running back particularly, and you're sitting here in the 8th round and you've got Judkins, Warren, Tracy, Mason, Etienne, all with question marks surrounding them. Upside for the other guys, they're going to be on the field. We don't know if Judkins is going to be on the field. Downside is they're all in situations that might not be good productively for them. I do believe in Tyrone Tracy. I like Mason. I like Warren. I like Etienne. So again, I would never buy Judkins up there realistically in the 6th round, you know, as it all started. But down here in the 8th round, sure. And then you're looking at also let's take a look. When we look at weekly winners, you know, we've got a couple weekly winners here. This is the first weekly winners we did with you guys on air. And in weekly winners, he was going, you know, 7th round there, right at the beginning of the 7th round. In weekly winners, you're going to see a precipitous drop for guys like Judkins and guys like Jennings, because I'm worried about contract. I'm worried about, are you going to see the field because you're going to be in jail? Drop. And Judkins could be one of those guys that in weekly winners, at least, I'm not talking crazy. He could drop to the 10th round because people are just not sure. They want to win. In the eliminator, when we look at the eliminator, if you're drafting the eliminator right now and you're thinking about Judkins particularly, this was the first eliminator we drafted. This was also just a couple of weeks ago. Where's he at? So Judkins here went in the 7th round here in the eliminator. Right now, because you don't know if he's going to play week 1, he's going to drop. He's going to drop really, really hard. Maybe on Wednesday, guys, we do an eliminator to see where that fall of Jennings and Judkins can be. Maybe we can capture some value if he drops a little bit into that, you know, J.K. Dobbins, Bashal Tutin scenario. Maybe we can capture fire in a bottle there. So thanks for joining us. We will be back Wednesday, 3:45 Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate all the likes, subscribes. Please follow us if you don't, so that you get our updates about our channel. And we'll see you again 3:45 on Wednesday. Thanks for joining, guys.